growing up, when I was slowly starting to figure out who I was and, come into terms with being gay, I think a lot of the people who kind of tormented me on a daily basis were young Black guys. Um, and I found refuge in women. And that's why you see a lot of gay, straight women alliances, because when you're going through figuring out who you are, who you like, who you love, a lot of times your peers are the ones that, drug you through the dirt for who.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Bro Zay here, and we're back with the new video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and share, and click that notification button. Okay, let's get into the topics today. So today we're going to be talking about why cis Black men are more so easily accepting of the white LGBTQ community versus the Black LGBTQ community. I remember the scandal of Duke Dennis, well, a streamer, I think named Sketch, and he got not exposed, but he was like gay in his personal life, but he was appearing straight on streaming. So people like Duke Dennis and his group of friends and other streamers were more so supporting, like, why you care about that, blah blah blah.
To be honest, bro, I don't give a fuck. Y'all shouldn't give a fuck. It's not y'all. It's not y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like if that's not what you into, then that's not. If that's not what you into, then it shouldn't even be that big of a deal.
But I also notice how they are quick to, and even though Rakai is playing or whatever, they're quick to demean, come at, and like or mean to Rakai, and do certain things that I think are a little bit questionable.
Hi. What?
Hold on, bro.
But they were so forthcoming, opening to Sketch, right? Same with Chris Brown. Chris Brown, he had an alleged fight with Frank Ocean, but, and I'm not saying it was off of his sexuality, but who knows, right? But he's easily taking pictures with his, non-black gay friends and comfortable with them. You see the comfortability, you see the difference. And then just like with Snoop Dogg, how he was very critical of the LGBT community, but he was quick to go to Glad with a non-black person and just had to have the conversation with him. So this topic needs to be explored carefully, because a lot of the times it's a lot of dynamics that's happening, right? So it's very nuanced, but I'm trying not to be stereotypical at the same time. A lot of the dynamics is shaped by race, gender, power, and respectability politics. So one, we also have to start at the top, whiteness. When you look at whiteness, it's and how it's socially positioned at the top and of power. It's viewed as less threatening, more neutral, feminine, culturally validated, socially dominant. Because white people are often seen as people, individual people. They're seen as not symbols of the whole race. And from their point of view, it seems like, and it seems like, it's the opposite of what people think of it as black. However, black LGBT community is not seen as that. It's more masculinized. It has harsh expectations of, those are not supposed to be, they're not supposed to be feminine. They're not supposed to be operating like this, because it's not a black thing, which creates harsher scrutiny on them. Also, respectability politics. A lot of the times black communities kind of police each other harshly, because it's kind of seen as the representation of like their whole race. A black masculinity is kind of celebrated in the black community. So when you see someone of a cis male, or even like males in general, deviating from that, any of that is kind of looked at as like you're not a part of the race. You're, in a sense, hurting the race. Not hurting the race, but more so in the sense of you're not representing the race well. People kind of use the terms as like weakening and not seen as a real man. A lot of it's judged through racial stakes and it being inferior, because people view femininity as inferior, hyper masculinity as a response to racism. A lot of men are developed to be this hyper masculine man and to be this, like a shield against certain things, and they're not supposed to be weak, feel weak or feminine, or they have to perform at a certain level, and being as though they feel like they have to perform at this certain stature because of the pressures that are put on them and how we are labeled. A lot of it a lot of it translates into homophobia, transphobia, rigid gender role, hypermasculine ideology. I mean, because black LGBT is kind of deemed as a threat versus white LGBT is not deemed as a threat. And then internalized racism can make white people seem more deserving of respect, empathy, innocence, and kind of like not judgment. They see it as, oh, he's like the cool, white gay boy. He's or a white queer person, but a black person is like not, because they're seen as other, so they're harshly punished. They get blamed for more things. They have this thought process about them that also goes into the intersectionality point. Black queer people exist in the intersections of blackness and queerness, right? They're double minorities, so they're already facing a lot of scrutiny. So again, it goes into like black cis het men don't see the white LGBT as a threat. They just more see the black queer people as a threat because they don't define queerness as black. And then, how community facing it is. I think this is a reason why Snoop Dogg felt it was good to go to them versus a black queer person, because studies have shown that like white queer people are often seen as like the standard or the front facing, so they kind of get more respect versus black queer people are excluded from certain things, so they're not given the same respect, or people don't see them as having the same power. And then media influences, how things are being portrayed. People seeing white queer people as more sympathetic and more like, they see them a certain way. Like you see like your Andy Cohen's and things like that, versus like how people push black, gay, queer people out, always have a negative life, never highlight their wins and the things that they're doing good. They rather report on Little Nas going through his situation rather than celebrating him taking care of his family, being a Grammy winner, being a diamond selling artist. I'm sure that all got reported, but people don't really want to focus on that. The media wants to highlight and attack him for, things that are going on in his life that are not as the best. And then lastly, let's talk about Massage Noir. Why do I can't say that Noir? I'm gonna just put it right here because I cannot say that word. So black womanhood is seen as lesser due to misogyny, and black gay men are feminized, and which means they are devalued in most ways, and black trans women are hyper feminized, which mean they're demonized and fetishized. While white queer people are not seen like that and don't kind of provoke the same anxieties from a cis het man's point of view. This is what I'm talking through. I'm not talking through anybody else's. So the acceptance level is very different when it comes to the two. It's racialized pressures, it's respectability politics, it's high desirability politics too. That plays a role. Hypermasculinity, internalized racism, color-based empathy, colorism, media portrayals is all systematic, and it all shows how America constructs blackness, manhood, and queerness, and all together, and how they kind of separate the two, and how so many roles play into it, from church, religious based, societal based, just so many factors that I named. I didn't really go into church because religion is a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother video in itself, but it really just has me thinking about like, wow, the patterns are there. It's subtle because a lot of people don't notice it, but they are there if you pay attention in what I've shown you today. So hopefully you can see that. And if you're a heterosexual male, really do your best to unpack that and really think about, okay, am I treating, if there's a difference in learning, seeing if you have those blind spots and trying to correct them. Or if you're not doing it, if you know someone who else is doing it. So that's all I have to say. Tell me what you guys think below. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you on my next one. Peace.